This is Avicii Levels. Welcome.
Come and listen.
This is Avicii Levels. Avicii.
Hey guys, this is Avicii. I'm back with a new episode of Levels. It's the 8th episode now. I finally got a mic that I can bring on tour, so that's kind of what I'm recording from now. It's gonna make it a whole lot easier for me to try and keeping this podcast as updated as I can. I know I haven't been on point with that earlier. This also means that me and Ash will be doing this together when we get the opportunity, but just because of the schedule and us not being on the same place, it's impossible to keep the deadlines if we're both going to be together every episode.
Levels.
On this show, I have a bunch of new tracks. I have a new one from myself and Nicky Romero, as some of you might have heard already, and Nicktim with a new vocal on it, so it's called Stranger now. This is something we've been working on for a while and just kind of finished the arrangement just a couple of days ago. I haven't even tried it out properly yet, so this is kind of a first one for everyone. So this is Stranger by me and Nicky Romero.
You are in tune to Avicii Levels.
Things we used to do and used to be. I could be the one to make you feel that way. I could be the one to set you free. Do you think about me when the crowd is gone? It used to be so easy, you and me. I could be the one to make you feel that way. I could be the one to set you free.
Coming at you on all levels. Avicii.
that was Max, Motif and Neoteric with Go Deep, the Torro remix. A track I've been playing out a lot the last couple of months. It's just been killing every place I've played it.
Levels.
Well, since the last show, I've been touring a lot as usual. I just came back from Moscow and Ukraine, actually, which was interesting and something new for me. I also did Dubai and a bunch of US dates too. The tour has been going really well everywhere, even though I've been there before. It's been super packed, and I'm just amazed with how many people actually come by and shows their support, and keeps just getting bigger and bigger all the time. For next year, I'm gonna be slowing down a little bit on the touring and gonna be focusing a lot more on actually producing. And I have January and February pretty much all lined up for just studio time and a lot of interesting collaborations and stuff. So that's gonna be something I'm really looking forward to, because it was a long time since I really had time to produce. And actually, since I got home now to Sweden, I've been here for about a week now, and I've finished like 4 tracks, so it's been really cool. Next up is The Giver with Duke Dumont.
This is Levels. You're in tune to Avicii Levels.
You're the special someone who makes me wanna give in. You're the special someone who makes me wanna give in. You're the special someone who makes me wanna give in. You're the special someone who makes me wanna. You're the special someone who makes me wanna give in. You're the special someone who makes me wanna give in. You're the special someone who makes me wanna give in. You're the special someone who makes me wanna give in, 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 wanna give in,
Avicii. Levels. Taking you higher, Avicii. to Avicii Levels. taking you to another level.
Was Nightride by Fehrplay, which is one of the grooviest tracks I've heard in a really long time, and it's been kind of constantly playing on my iPod when I've been traveling.
Coming at you on all levels.
Well, next off, I'm leaving in a couple of days. Then I'm off to the US again, and then a South America tour with Mexico, Brazil, Honduras, a bunch of places, and that's going to be really interesting. It's always interesting to go down to South America. It's so different from everywhere else in the world, and it feels kind of lawless and awesome.
You're in tune to Avicii Levels.
Pick myself up and carry on, 'cause something's waiting for
another level.
Run for cover! Run for cover!
Okay, so that was a new one by Skrillex and Nero, Holdin' On by MONSTA, Skrillex and Nero mix, and Run for Cover with the Cassette Boys. So next up is Voices by Henrik B, which is going to be out on the Levels label. Henrik has been a good friend of mine for a long time, and this track is a really cool one from him.
taking you to another level. Avicii.
Avicii Levels.
Okay, so we're out of time. Thanks guys for sticking around for the hour, and I'll be back next month for sure now with my new mic. And I'll leave you guys with one last track. It's the Gigamesh remix of Two Door Cinema Club's Sun. And I hope I'll see you guys next month. I'm getting better at keeping the deadlines, so hopefully there will be no more delays from now on. Thanks guys, see you next month.
I built a hive, became one with the bees, but we fell like rain, got lost into the sea. If I don't know, the wind will carry me, and I wonder, will you wait for me? Oh no, I'm far away, I know I'll stay right there with you. No, it might be too late. What would you say, what would you do?
Thank you for listening to Avicii Levels.